every so often, I like to have the fan perspective on the show. So, host, author, reality TV star, Packers superfan Nick Viall is on the show today to offer just that, talking Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur, and everything in between. Let's get it started.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. As I mentioned at the top, Nick Viall is on the show today. He's back again. He's got a ton of great stuff. Fandemonium is his sports show on Amazon with Lindsay McCormick, who's also an old pal of mine. He, of course, has the Viall Files, which is a podcast on The Bachelor and relationships and all kinds of stuff. And he has a new book, Don't Text Your Ex. And on their birthday, I think is the full title of the book. But if you search like Amazon for Nick Viall, you will find the book. All of that coming up. It is a Winter Friday conversation, so we're not going to go super long. But I did want to give you all of that. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp Online Therapy. It is up to all of us to make sure we're being our best selves. And you can't be your best self if you don't have the tools. And sometimes that is about motivation. Sometimes that is about focus. Sometimes it's about self-confidence. And sometimes it is about trauma or dealing with deep-seated issues in your life. Whatever it is, BetterHelp can help you be the best version of you. And that's what therapy is about. That's what BetterHelp can be for you. They have tools for you. If you want to be on camera, you can. If you don't, you don't have to be. They tailor it as much as you want it to be tailored. So check it out. Give it a chance and be your best self with BetterHelp. Get unstuck with BetterHelp. Get out of whatever rut you are in, if you're in one, or just get on track in the way that you can be. You can get 10% off your first month with the promo code Locked On. Get that promo code Locked On to get 10% off with BetterHelp. And thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen every day. Make your second listen Locked On Sports today. My all sports show. Hello. We do the biggest stories in sports, the biggest, most important things that you need to know as a sports fan, and the take of the day. Follow Locked On Sports today, all in under 20 minutes on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. You've seen him on TV. You've seen him on YouTube. You've listened to his podcast. Maybe you've watched his new sports show, Fandemonium. Maybe you've read his book. Nick Viall is all over the place doing just about everything you can do to create content. I love it. Nick, tell me about this sports show.
Yeah, I mean, my friend Lindsay McCormick and I, you might know her. She has been all over the sports arena for a long time with ESPN, SI. She used to be a sideline reporter for Auburn. But yeah, with the platform AMP, where we have live shows every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, and it's mostly Packer talk, just because, me. And we just, cover all things NFL. We just kind of riff, and it's mostly me complaining this year. So there's that, and it's just a lot of fun. So if you guys are dying for more Packer content, check it out, 6 p.m. Eastern on AMP. It's free to download. It's with Amazon, and it's live. And yeah, something to put on in the background, and especially if you want to start venting about all things Packers, which I feel like a lot of people are doing these days.
They sure are, and that's why I brought you in. That's part of why you're here. Definitely go check that out. So one of the reasons why I thought to bring you on is I was listening to Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst and Aaron Rodgers talk about the future with Aaron Rodgers, and it sort of struck me and this may have been a metaphor you used on the show previously, that the Packers and Aaron Rodgers were a couple that knows it's over, but neither wants to be the one to say, I'm out. And so they stay together 2 years longer than they should.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes breaking up is really hard. People fear change. Who do you think is more afraid to move on? Aaron Rodgers or Matt LaFleur? Because I don't think Brian Gutekunst is afraid to move on.
I think that's a really astute observation. And as you were asking me that question, I was like, I wonder if he's going to say Aaron Rodgers or the Packers, because I think it's two different answers. I think Brian Gutekunst, whenever is ready. I think he's ready. I think it would be much harder for Matt LaFleur. And I don't know, can you blame him? Like, they did win 2 MVPs together. He's been really good. He's one of the greatest ever. Like, if I'm Matt LaFleur, I think I like Jordan Love, but we'll see. It is a difficult situation to be in. How has I know that last offseason you were ready to make this move.
I'm ready again.
I was going to ask, how has this season changed anything, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm definitely ready, and I think I've always been on the glass is half full when it comes to Jordan Love. Like, certainly when he played against the Chiefs, and certainly moments in the preseasons, there's a lot to leave us wanting more, for sure. But I think we just, the NFL, like everything else these days, kind of, what have you done for me lately? We're very impatient people. We're wanting our first round draft picks to be instant performers. And nowadays you see some of that with certain people, the Nick Bosas and the Justin Jeffersons and things like that. But those are like the 1%ers, half of the first round players bust, let alone making on the fields as contributors or stars. And so, I've always been optimistic about Jordan Love, and not to, it was only a couple series, but there was a lot to love about Jordan Love against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, he looked composed. He looked confident. He didn't look rattled. They were in the game, it was a game still. It wasn't garbage time. And he had 2 scoring drives. I mean, Christian Watson did a lot of the heavy lifting there, but he made some really nice throws. And I think there's still going to be some growing pains, but I thought it was pretty significant that Brian Gutekunst said, we've seen everything we need to see in terms of in terms of Jordan Love. And Lindsay and I were talking last week, and I just said, because I think, I don't know, maybe it was you or someone, but someone interviewed some sort of anonymous NFL scout, and they basically said, like, listen, this guy's in the building all the time. He's on the practice field. He's practicing against the number 1 defense. Like, obviously game snaps help and they matter. But if they don't know what they have in Jordan Love by now, they probably shouldn't be evaluating talent for the NFL, right?
Yeah. I think what is really important too is that Brian Gutekunst said, we've seen everything we need to know from practice. We've learned everything we can learn from practice, but at a certain point, you have to grow through playing. You have to fail. You have to learn how to win games. I thought that was a really great point by Brian Gutekunst. And I think what heartened me through all of this is it's very clear they have checkpoints. They have a plan for Jordan Love. They want to see certain things by certain times. And I think they're going to hold on to Jordan Love until the very, very end. Like, even if Aaron Rodgers comes back, I think there's still a chance Jordan Love is the guy in 2024. Like, that's all still in play to me.
Yeah,
but how big do you think the opportunity cost is going to end up being of not doing it, let's say last year?
I don't know. Like, I agree with you, man. Like, what were they going to do? Trade the 2-time MVP?
This is the hard thing, right?
This season just didn't work out, man. Like, it's such a bummer season for so many reasons. I mean, it's going to really piss me off when Tom Brady goes another Super Bowl when they're like, they finish, 9-8 in the regular season, or 10-7 or something like that, because the NFC is wide open. The number, I think the Niners have kind of cemented themselves as kind of maybe the team to beat, or the Eagles, I guess. But now the Niners have a quarterback problem. And the Eagles are really good. They only have 1 loss, but I don't know if, do they look unbeatable? Absolutely not. The Packers beat the Cowboys, and then you got the Vikings. I mean, come on, let's be real here. Like, I mean, maybe it's their year, but I'm just saying, in terms of the NFC, it's so disappointing that the Packers are having a down year, and it's a bummer. I mean, other than that Detroit game, really, that was such.
That was when you knew that it was just not going to happen this year.
Yeah, I mean, with you had so many significant injuries, Rashawn Gary being the most significant one. And there are a couple of bad losses away of being right in this playoff race. And, if any NFC team that makes the playoffs has a shot, and that's a real bummer.
What would be
pretty much out.
To your Tom Brady point? What would be the most annoying outcome? Mike McCarthy wins the Super Bowl, Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl, or Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl?
I'm a Mike McCarthy fan. Good for him, man. Like,
I think I'd be happy for Mike too.
Yeah, I have no qualms. We fired him. He won us a Super Bowl.
There's a street named after him.
I mean, like Aaron Rodgers hasn't been to a Super Bowl since Mike McCarthy. No offense, Matt LaFleur. I mean,
Sure.
I'm just saying, like, we have no reason to be frustrated at Mike McCarthy. He had a great run. Maybe it was time for him to move on, but yeah, that won't bother me. And Tom Brady, that would just be annoying, But and then who's the other one?
I said, well, Brock Purdy, just because the 49ers winning it with a backup quarterback would just sort of be like, okay, so the Packers had Aaron Rodgers for all this time, and the 49ers win with a backup quarterback.
I guess that'll annoy me less. It'll make me criticize Aaron a little bit more. I think he cares about winning. I think he cares about his individual legacy more.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong there, and maybe that's an unfair criticism, but is it me? I feel like there's no one really talking about, especially after this Bears win. I'm just getting a sense that like Rodgers is mentally preparing to retire. He kind of gave me this, like, when I think it was maybe the Christian Watson score, and he kind of ran down the end zone and kind of trolled the Bears fans. And he seemed like he took a moment almost a little bit. Yeah. And who knows, like maybe Rodgers just has the foresight to say, I don't know what I'm doing. And if this is my last season, I want to take this in. That's entirely possible. But I don't know. I mean, other than walking away from a lot of money, I could see Aaron Rodgers being like, I do have other interests. I do want other things, as much as it would be fun to play with the Christian Watsons and Romeo Dubs of the world. Like, maybe is this like, I don't know, is this team really, are we going to be in Super Bowl contention next year? Maybe. I guess anything's possible. But, we see now that, like, even if Rashawn Gary is back by training camp or he's activated week 1, it's going to take him half a season to start
he's not going
playing.
to be the same guy.
Bakhtiari, Jenkins, like they're starting to finally play up to their potential, and it took some time. So I think there's still a lot to be excited about this roster. I think this past draft class has a lot of upside. I think Kingsley Enagbare, we saw he has the number 1 pass rush win rate amongst all rookies, and you got a lot of first round draft picks in the top 5, and then you got Kingsley Enagbare. Christian Watson, Romeo Dubs, a lot to be excited about. Zach Tom,
they might have hit a home run with this draft.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. It's just amazing how bad. Like, we should never draft a 3rd round pick. We should trade it forever. I don't care if we just trade down, give it away,
or trade the pick to someone else.
Get a 4th round pick. Just just swap 3rd and 4th. I mean, isn't it amazing? Amari Rodgers can't get through season 2. We trade up for the guy. And then we got Sean Ryan, right? Sean Ryan, that's his name.
Yep.
And everyone's excited about him. People are just like, oh, this guy's going to compete for a starting position. And in his rookie year, there was a lot to like. Oh, he's just, this big kind of, he's going to move the pile and run game. The guy was like terrible in the preseason. We didn't hear him. And his claim to fame, his rookie year, is being suspended for 6 games for PED. It's like comical. It's like a curse. It's unbelievable how bad they are drafting 3rd round picks.
It is wild. I don't know what to make of it. Like, it's not just Brian Gutekunst either. It goes back to Ted Thompson. Like, they've missed on basically 8 straight 3rd round picks. It's
Eric Green,
statistically like
Alex Green,
highly unlikely for that to have been a thing.
It's unbelievable. And then like the players they missed, like, oh my God.
Right. Jay Sternberger over Terry McLaurin, that kind of thing. Right.
It hurts. Do you think there's any chance? I replied to your tweet and I said this, but it would be so cool if Aaron Rodgers in the room too. And I would love to know that if what Aaron Rodgers truly believes about, Jordan Love, like he has an opinion. I don't think we'll ever really know because he's only going to say nice things about Jordan. Right. And but it would be great if Rodgers decides to retire. It's like, all right, man, it's time to hang it up. I got other interests. This team is, the likelihood of us competing for a Super Bowl next year, unlikely. I'm going to hang it up. I got other passions. And he goes into his press conference and he's just, answering all these questions. He, a tear runs down his face. He's like, it's time to hang it up. And he says, I'm retiring because ultimately it's time for me to move on. But I just want Packer Nation to know that you're in great hands with Jordan Love. I really believe this guy is going to be something special. And, I also thought it was time for me to pass the torch, and I didn't want to get away in the way of any transition. And he kind of like paints this picture of, not doing what Brett Favre did, or not doing what, some of these kind of legendary quarterbacks have done. And ultimately, I don't expect Aaron Rodgers to like stop playing football just so Jordan Love can play, but it would be nice for him to kind of pass the torch and give Packer Nation his vote of confidence for Jordan Love. And I think he would be really kind of embraced by Packer Nation as, a guy who's been known as being kind of maybe self-centered or selfish at times, to kind of like do this kind of what selfless act of maybe retiring just a hair before he really wanted to, but thought it was maybe just, it made the most sense given, where Jordan Love is in his progression. And I think that would be a lot of fun. And then he comes out and crushes it. And then we, start winning a lot of games and dominate the NFC North the next decade again. That would be, that's my dream.
I think so. If Aaron Rodgers retires, I do think he will do that. And I also think,
even if he's not sure, because I don't think Jordan, do you think
even if he's not sure, I think even if he's not sure, he will say, I think the Packers are in good hands with Jordan Love, and leave it at that. Even if I don't think he thinks Jordan Love stinks. Because it'd be weird if like Devondre Campbell thought Jordan Love was awesome and Aaron Rodgers thought he sucked. Either one of those guys is really wrong if that's the case, right? So, but I think he could do the same thing, and in his heart of hearts, maybe he thinks he could, in a trade situation, blunt the impact of fan reaction. If he comes out and says, let's say he gets traded, and the Jets, he goes to the Jets, right? And he says, you know what? I thought it was time. The team and I agreed it was time to move on. It was time to give Jordan an opportunity. I think the Packers are in great hands with Jordan Love. Ultimately, this was the best for everyone involved. I think he can sell that. And I think there are going to be a lot of fans who go, you know what? You're right. And the Jets send back Elijah Moore and first round picks and whatever. There is a win-win scenario here.
Yeah, I completely agree. And unlike when I just very much rooted against Brett Favre when he went to the Vikings, short of Aaron Rodgers going to the Vikings, I could even stomach him going to the Niners at this point. I really could, and if he goes to Niners next year, I mean, they're definitely going to be the Super Bowl favorite, but who knows? I mean, everyone thought the Packers were a Super Bowl favorite, and that didn't pan out. But I mean, if Jordan Love is ready, I mean, that's the big if. But at that point, I just want to get what I can get for Rodgers. If I can get a first round pick, take that big salary cap hit this year, flush out all that, ugly dead money, and then really go for it, see what we can do with Jordan and this young roster next season. Like I could if Aaron Rodgers retires this season and we get, or retires or trades, I mean, if he trades them and we get some like draft capital and some maybe young players, and then Jordan Love comes in and plays well, I could see us being like the Eagles of last year,
I think that's a lot
of young talent,
reasonable expectation.
A lot of bumps and bruises early on, gets hot at the end, maybe he makes the playoffs, see what happens, probably get, blown out by like whatever the top NFC team is. And then, next year, the year following, I think maybe we could be a really contender, which would be very much in line. I mean, the parallels of Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers, it's really been kind of eerie, right? We drafted Jordan Love in the same context we drafted Aaron Rodgers in year 3, in a game that like the Packers are losing, but kind of still in it, a la the Dallas Cowboys. Aaron Rodgers comes in and people are like, oh, maybe this guy can play. Jordan Love comes in. All of a sudden people are like, oh, maybe this guy can play. And then, let's say, and if in 2 years, always starts like busting it out, like it could be kind of a fascinating
and then trade him to the
thing.
Jets,
Yeah.
complete the whole the narrative. Like that's the perfect. Perfect solution.
Yeah, the Jets and the Niners obviously are both like very good fits for Rodgers. It's incredible what the Jets have done. I just don't see Rodgers wanting to go to the Jets. I think he would rather go to the Niners. Might as well go back to Cali. you know?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the question is, what are the 49ers plans? I mean, with Trey Lance, do they still believe in Trey Lance? What's the future of Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't know how they can bring Jimmy Garoppolo back. So there's a lot. And the big thing hanging over all of this is, what does Tom Brady want to do? Because the 49ers might be able to sign Tom Brady outright and not have to trade anything for Aaron Rodgers. And that's probably for them the better solution. Get Tom Brady for a year, keep Trey Lance, and then have Trey Lance win, or take over from Tom Brady in a year. That's going to make you mad. It's going to make me mad, because they'll win the Super Bowl next year with Tom Brady, and it'll be the worst.
It'll be a bummer. Yeah, that'll definitely be a bummer. Do you think there's any way that?
How has your opinion of Matt LaFleur changed this year?
That's a great question. And I guess I wanted to ask you this, because I know you've also been tweeting, I've throughout the season, this Rodgers wanted McCarthy out, for a variety of reasons, and yet he seems to be holding on so much to the old ways. I mean, Rodgers has been pretty transparent in some of these interviews about how beautiful the West Coast offense is and how motion slows things down and blah 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 blah. And then I'm thinking to myself, as much as Matt LaFleur has stumped for Aaron Rodgers the past 2 off seasons, like you said, what is Matt LaFleur's offense? I don't know. Because I'm tired of this team coming out and looking like a well-oiled machine for the first 3 drives and then disappearing, which is happened so many times with this offense. And I can't help but wonder, I mean, how can you run 2 different systems? It just seems so disjointed. I feel so much about offensive football in the NFL is about kind of momentum and fluidity and things like that. And when all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers wants to do his thing, I don't know. And it just seems if I'm Matt LaFleur, I want Matt LaFleur to want to move on from Aaron Rodgers, not because there's nothing against Aaron Rodgers, but I want Matt LaFleur to say, you know what, this Jordan Love guy, I think he's pretty good. Some of my peers, a la Kyle Shanahan, he's winning with nobody.
God knows who.
And I want to see what a Matt LaFleur run offense is, where his quarterback is just yes, sir, no, sir, I'll do what you want. And starts slinging it. And all the times I keep hearing how Matt LaFleur can scheme open receivers and, all the ways that we see receivers running wide open against our defense. I'd love to see that. But,
unfortunately, the Packers don't get to play the Packers every week. But I think there's an interesting question of is Jordan Love running the purest form of Matt LaFleur's offense better than Aaron Rodgers running this hybrid? I think that's a real question. I still probably lean toward the latter, but in a year or 2, could the former be better? I think that's the question the Packers have to answer this offseason. Right? And then it's Jordan Love plus whatever you're getting from Aaron Rodgers too. That's part of the calculation.
Yeah. I'm still, listen, I definitely do not want them to fire Matt LaFleur. I still believe in him. I mean, it's weird thing about this season is this defense, this season went almost exactly how we thought, minus the injuries you can't predict, except the defense is dog shit. Sorry, excuse my language, but it's crap. The whole going into this season, it was our offense is going to struggle. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be bumps in the road, and our top 5 defense or whatever they're going to be is going to carry us through. And they just never did that. We lost a lot of close games that we needed our defense to stop up. We needed players like Jair Alexander to make some plays and not get beat, on 3rd and long against the Washington Commanders when their quarterback was throwing off their back foot in the face of pressure.
Yeah, with his eyes closed.
What is up with Jair Alexander? I absolutely hate his attitude, his body language. He's walking around like he's Revis Island, and bad quarterbacks are not afraid to throw at Jair Alexander.
To bad receivers.
We
just saw that in the Bears game.
And Jair, you can say all you want how these are trash receivers. They're beating you, dude. And I don't care if you get a garbage interception at the end of the game. Earn your money and stop mouthing off or whatever. I absolutely hate his attitude right now. And I love his swag. I just want, if you're going to do that, back it up, don't become an average receiver with an average D-back with a big mouth. It's become very frustrating to see him get beat so many times and have average quarterbacks not be afraid to go after him.
Yeah, you need that swagger to play defensive back in the NFL. It's one thing to do it when you're winning, and it's another to do it when you're losing and not playing great. And that's just like the whole thing in the NFL is you have to be able to, thread that needle. That's a hard needle to thread too, because you want these guys to bring that juice. You want them to bring the energy and the confidence and all that stuff. And it's definitely a fine line. All right, Nick, last thing for you here. As we look toward the rest of this season, this is the question I've been asking everyone who comes on the show. What are you holding on to? What are you looking forward to? What do you want to see? What are you excited to see the rest of the way?
Yeah, the young receivers for sure. I am really hoping Romeo gets healthy, and I'd love to see Christian Watson and Romeo on the field together, because I really think we have something special in both those guys. It's been really exciting. I've been like on Romeo's, bandwagon since training camp, and it's been fun to be, I think, right about that. And Christian Watson really worried Packer fans in the beginning of the season with some of these injuries and some of these drop passes. But wow, has he really shown his potential? And that's super exciting to land two potential Pro Bowl receivers with a lot of athletic upside in the same draft. That's super exciting. And then I'm just like waiting for Joe Barry to get fired. Whenever that happens, I'm here for it. And I just like at this point, because you have to, right? You have to fire him.
I think you probably do. Yeah.
You can't invest this much draft capital and be this bad at defense. You just can't, so, and I don't think they should fire Brian Gutekunst, but like, hey man, someone has to be held accountable for how just mediocre this defense is and how bad they are in critical times. And given how much draft capital you've put in, it's just like, we have the playmakers, or on paper, we have the playmakers. And how can the Niners be this dominant defense? And we're just like a defense that no one is afraid of. It just makes no sense to me. And it's something has to change. And please fire Joe Barry right now.
Well, that is a great place to end on all of this. Nick, I appreciate your time, and we'll talk again soon, man.
Always a pleasure, Peter.
All right. Thanks to Nick for joining the show. Always great to talk with him. Today's episode brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. You don't have to play against other people. You don't have to play against the sharks, the experts, the sharps, whatever you want to say. You have to play against a number. PrizePicks, they pick a number. Let's say Aaron Rodgers passing yards. And you decide if you think Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for more or less passing yards. Grab Aaron Jones rushing yards, put those together, and bang, you've got a PrizePicks lineup. It's daily fantasy made so easy, and you can win up to 10 times your money. So go to PrizePicks and use the promo code LOCKEDON to get 100% deposit bonus up to $100. They're just going to give you money. You put $100 in, they will give you $100. It's a wonderful thing at PrizePicks.com. And thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen every day. Make your second listen Locked On Sports today. My all sports show. It's the biggest stories in sports, plus the take of the day. Our network of experts get you set for the day in sports to give you everything you need to know on the biggest stories every day. It's great. That's what we do on the Locked On Podcast Network. We give you the big stories every day. Check us out on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. All right, back next week. We've got Trey Wingo coming up on the show next week for Expert Tuesday. Hopefully more interviews to come next week as well. We've got a crossover, of course. Travis Rogers, Locked On Rams, Lily Zhao on Wednesday. Our live show on Friday. So much to do. So little time. And it's football back. Football back next week. Enjoy your Sunday off if you have one. And otherwise, miss Packer football. I'm sure a lot of people are. So follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to come hang out with us live, not this week, but next week, you can do that on our Locked On Packers YouTube page to stay Locked On Packers.